Hello, welcome to Rapid and welcome to America Makes Game Day. I'm here, Ralph Resnick, founding director of America Makes, and my comrade,
Rob Gorham, the executive director of America Makes.
So what we intend to do here is to just have some chats, similar to what we do, what you see at Game Day on ESPN, and tell you a little bit about what's going on at the show, what's happened during the day, and what to expect coming up. Hopefully at the same time, we'll be telling you a little bit about what's going on at America Makes. So, so to kick things off, you're here in the America Makes booth at Rapid. We got some great new digs. Rob, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's real cool. If you think about this, Ralph, I mean, years ago when America Makes had just started, the showroom floor was smaller. We had only launched our first 8 projects back in 2013, and 100 projects later, hundreds of partners involved. What you see a lot of these folks displaying are things that have been part of what we've been doing for the last few years.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think what we really wanted to do with the new setup was not necessarily try to compete with what the folks have been able to show as their innovation, their creativity, their progress, but really kind of go back to what our roots are, and that's create an environment where people feel like they can come together, create an environment where we can represent the industry. And I'm hoping with you over the next few days, together we can talk about some really great innovations, get excited about some accomplishments different organizations are having. And hopefully we can have those conversations with people right here. We have a great conference room. Another thing that I know you understand very well is our convening mechanism is just as important as the innovation we do through R&D projects.
Absolutely, and on the wall right here, we have an interactive screen that people can come up and get a better understanding of how to engage America Makes and what America Makes offers. But so Rapid kicked off yesterday, and it was a very exciting kickoff. The ballroom was filled, great speakers. Maria Conrado from SME and Jim Woodcock from TCT opened the event, and Mark Michalski, the new SME president, also welcomed and talked about what had been a small show into the early 90s is what's become here today. I mean, we're talking about the potential for 6,000 to 7,000 visitors. We're looking at 400 exhibitors. Todd Grimm went through and highlighted over 50 different things to see at the show. And there was a great presentation by Erica Berg from Carbon and Vittorio Baloga from Riddell, who's their R&D manager, that talked about Carbon's collaboration with Riddell in coming up with the new Diamond football helmet.
How close are they to actually turning that into reality, or have they done it already?
Well, they're doing some already, and they have some out in the field, and I think they said something like 600 of the players are looking to wear this 3D printed helmet. So that was very exciting, but I guess the thing that really touched my heart was the SME Rapid giving their Industry Lifetime Achievement Award to Professor Ellie Sachs from MIT.
And you've known Ellie for a long time,
I've known Ellie since the early 90s when I was at Extrude and we were negotiating the licensing of binder jetting. So Ellie was one of the inventors of binder jetting at MIT. And so there was a great video that showed the lab that I had spent many days in, and it brought back a lot of good memories, but it also brought back the excitement of where additive has come from. And I think we'll see a lot of that here. I mean, Rob, think about what this was before, and look at these booths around here. I mean, this is for real.
Yeah.
This is, and it's not just equipment builders, it's software providers, it's metrology, it's scanning, it's the whole ecosystem.
But you bring up a really good point, because I think in the past a lot of that had been disconnected. And one of the things we've been talking a lot about, you and I and many others at NCDMM, is really the digitization of the process allows for a connection to the supply chain that has really never been established before in a way that's, I think, we're at a point where you're going to see the supply chain mature. I remember when I used to work for Lockheed Martin, we always had difficulty seeing down inside the supply chain, because a lot of the transactions were happening with fax machines, hard copy through mail. But now we can see real-time production records, quality records, we can see orders, we can see the entire digital thread, can't we? Because of the technology and innovations they've been having over the last few years.
Well, we can, but I think we also need to be merging. There's this collision going on between Industry 4.0, IoT, the digital thread, things like automation, additive manufacturing. And that's really where we're going to be seeing some significant efforts and really seeing the revolutionizing of manufacturing.
Ralph, last night I got a chance to watch my son sing instead of come and be part of the events. He had a 6th-grade choir concert, and of course I can't miss that.
Oh, absolutely.
But you held down the fort.
Yes, sir.
But I'm curious, did they talk at all about the importance of the human capital element of this entire show? I mean, did they talk about education and workforce at all, or is that not yet?
Absolutely. I think it's on, the thing is on everybody's lips.
Yeah.
There was, especially at the SME Gala, where we gave out our international awards and our scholarships from the SME Educational Foundation. And number one, it was so exciting to see these students that are going to be going to college as a result of the scholarships from SME, and to have them talk about how excited they are about entering manufacturing. So I think when we look at the ecosystem of additive manufacturing, one of the key elements is the workforce.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing a lot of that occurring. We have partners such as SME.
SME, yeah.
And that we're working with to be able to advance that workforce, identify what are the skill sets. So in fact, I mean, John Wilczynski is going to be talking about our roadmaps and standards that we're working on. And
absolutely,
maybe, so I think that's occurring this afternoon, right?
Yeah, this afternoon. It's it's at 12. It's at 3:30. It's called the Defense Supply Chain.
Okay.
And it's happening in the SME zone right over there. They've got a theater set up, and he'll be talking about roadmaps. He's got folks from the government coming. He's got folks from industry, such as the Barnes Group Advisors, Dr. Dennis Butcher. We're going to be talking about roadmaps and the importance of roadmaps. And I think that's something that I believe we ought to continue to strive for as an institute, as trying to set a common narrative around the industry, is constantly trying to drive the roadmap discussion, because there's so much stuff going on that often gets disconnected. And I think on accident we disconnect, the importance of education and workforce with the opportunities to innovate and create around product design. And I love the fact that what we've really tried to work hard to do is keep those connections to our roadmaps.
Yes.
And I hope that this afternoon people can really get an appreciation of that. And we've been working with SME for a while now, talking about how to even better integrate some of our roadmap language and narrative into future rapid shows.
Sure.
So that's really exciting too.
Well, and I think the other thing that when you talk about education and workforce, what we've done in America Makes is not only develop a technology roadmap, but we've also developed a roadmap for our education and workforce. Yeah. And being able to get our arms around and to get some definition, because I think the community is confused, and so being able to get some clarity and not have it be such a Wild West show. You know?
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, at the end of the day, industry hires people to come work productively and bring value to the organization, and without some type of a recognized credential or something that people can stand behind, which our roadmap calls out, we're always going to be kind of doing donuts in the parking lot.
Right.
As John often tells me, we spin around too fast. So, that's awesome.
So what else is America Makes up to and going towards? I think the audience would love to hear about that.
Well, at 11:30 today, we're actually doing it's called Implementing Additive Manufacturing Challenges and Opportunities, Additive Manufacturing Use Cases. We're going to be doing that in the SME zone as well. And then from 2:15 to 4:15, we'll be bringing together all the different standard developing organizations. Let's talk about how to continue to try to drive standards. We're making tremendous progress through our Additive Manufacturing Standards Collaborative. There's still a tremendous amount of work to be done. I remember 2 years ago, we were sitting on the stage with Dr. Grills and John Barnes, and John made a comment that I thought was really interesting. We all care about this industry. We ought to care about giving back. And what he meant by that were things like standards, in many cases, are given back. We all need them. Nobody wants to pay for their involvement. It's a consensus-based process. It's our responsibility to be part of that. So I would encourage anybody that wants to see the future of additive become real to be a part of the standard organization. We have about 1,000 people right now that are interacting through the standard group in some way.
Well, I think it's also another opportunity for networking.
No doubt.
You know, and there's and standards are really non-threatening when we talk about, or at least they should be.
They shouldn't be.
And so being able to have that opportunity to talk about how the community can be helped, how we can get more formality to what we're developing and a common sense about how we're going forward. I think it's a great opportunity, especially for young engineers and the young people in the industry, to get a better appreciation to what standards mean.
Yeah.
You know, standards are not they don't conflict with creativity.
That's right.
Okay, they just sort of build a framework for which you can be creative off of. And so I'm glad that we have really embraced the standards, and once again, we built a roadmap for standards, right? And with our good partners from ANSI.
Yeah.
And so bringing together all of those standard development organizations was, initially it was kind of interesting, but it's worked out well.
You know, you asked a question about what else is going on in America Makes, and you know, we talked a little bit about the growth of the Rapid Show, but I bet you if you plotted the growth trajectory of the Rapid Show against the growth trajectory of America Makes, you'd see a very similar slope.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is number of engagements, number of projects, number of deliverables coming out of these projects, number of organizations accessing all the content that we're sharing amongst our different partnership.
Yeah.
The number of projects that we're continuing to try to work that are really elevated. I mean, in the early days of America Makes, if you remember, it was really lower risk technical projects, and now we've really raised the level of sophistication of these projects. For example, the work we're doing with mammals, the maturation of additive manufacturing for sustainment for the Air Force. That's a big, impactful program, multi-year, multi-million-dollar program involving hundreds of partners. Same thing with our new supply chain project that we call AM Now, right Ralph? And I get so excited about thinking about how all of these different components get to be integrated into the digital supply chain, the future state of the supply chain. You remind me about that all the time. We got to consider the future state. Don't let today's current state constrain us artificially.
Right.
Let's take advantage of the situation.
Because I think we really don't understand what the supply chain is going to look like. I mean, additive is going to revolutionize that.
Yeah.
You know, being able to go from art to part is, and to go from new art to part, right? Where manufacturing is not a constraint for design. And in fact, I think that, you know, one of our big hurdles is bringing software and design software to the point where it catches up with where additive is now. And we're seeing that. I'm anxious to get out to the show and see where some of the software is. But I know that in America Makes, we also have been doing a lot of work in the design space, and we've had some really great success stories about some of the stuff there. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's examples of projects that we've done where companies have been bought up by big companies like ANSYS and Autodesk.
Right.
And you know, a lot of that had to do with some early of bringing together people with different disparate solutions to come up with a comprehensive approach that's allowing true innovation to happen in the design space.
Right.
And again, the power of collision.
Yeah, and also bringing together the universities and teaching them how to collaborate and work with small businesses, large industries, and because in America Makes, we sort of force that function,
Yeah.
right? By looking for diversity on our teams and really bringing collaboration to the next level.
You know, one of the other things I get really excited about that we don't talk a whole lot about is what we're doing with our government relations advisory group. You know, over the last 6 years, we put so much energy into solving technical problems, and because we have to. But I get excited about thinking around how policy can impact implementation, how in a global world, the global supply chain could be affected by an unintended consequence of a policy, and looking at our both legislative and executive branches and having a government relations group made up of really strong government affairs people to try to make sure we don't accidentally do something that would disrupt advancing the industry is awesome. And so we're leading that, and
That's right.
You've been very involved in that. What excites you most about that group, do you think?
Well, I think the thing that excites me is the amount of passion and dedication that we're seeing from that group.
Yeah.
So they're not being parochial about how they could get funding but they're really looking collectively at how they can work together to help the community, and that's always the exciting thing for me because
too.
I'm such a proponent of collaboration, and but collaboration is not just in projects.
Sure.
It's in how we can learn best practices from each other, how we can leverage and really accelerate the insertion of additive into mainstream manufacturing.
Which goes back to the very first question you asked me about our booth. It really goes back to what our value proposition we believe is so much more than just projects. It's really about bringing those people together to solve a whole bunch of different problems.
Yep.
And
so
it's
Rob,
really exciting.
Excuse me a second, I'm just loving this, look at all these students coming by. It's fantastic.
That's going to be the future, and one of these days they're going to be sitting in our chairs, hopefully.
Yeah.
Probably doing a better job than us.
I know, and you're getting old too. So. But so what else are you seeing at America Makes? So we were talking about AM Now and the supply chain, and what you were saying about the government aspects of things. All of these things are going to be impacting the supply chain.
Yeah.
And so that's why AM Now is so, I think, so relevant, because it's really looking at future state. What is the supply chain going to look like? What impact is additive going to have on that supply chain? Being able to build an ecosystem that addresses that future state, so that we can be doing it here in the U.S. All of that, I'm really looking forward to this project and embracing our partners.
Well, me too, Ralph. And the thing is, you go back to 2012 when we were initiated in August, and it was all about increasing U.S. manufacturing competitiveness.
Right.
And our topic being the first institute, the pilot institute, was around additive manufacturing. And to do that, what I love about what AM Now is actually trying to create is actually build regional competencies. And it's not good enough just to see machines get bigger and faster, materials be made more available. But to really have manufacturing competitiveness in the United States, we need regions to embrace the innovations and to build competencies inside those regions. And that will have a direct result in the economic impact that, while we're not chartered to actually solve, is part of what we're trying to actually accomplish.
Right.
And I think AM Now is a perfect example of building in Northeast Ohio, a Western Pennsylvania, additive manufacturing competency that the Department of Defense, for example, is going to be able to source with confidence from.
Well, and within AM Now, we're looking to, as we determine what the future state of the ecosystem is going to look like, we'll be building maturity models and competency assessments to determine if where an organization stands,
Yeah.
but also where a region stands in accordance to that maturity model.
Yep.
So that's going to be very exciting. It should be able to help identify where there's gaps, where economic development groups can go in to support those gaps, and then after this pilot in the Tech Belt in Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Ohio, we'll be able to expand that to other regions
Yeah.
and other organizations, and so that's very exciting.
So I was just told that you and I apparently could do this all day, but we have to end.
Oh,
I know, it's too bad, but we're going to be doing this all day.
absolutely.
All tomorrow. We're going to have other guests come in, other colleagues of ours going to take our seats. But the notes that they slid over this morning I loved, because at the very bottom of it, it said, keep the passion, keep the excitement about innovation. And I'm looking forward to continuing that over the next couple days with you.
Yes, sir.
And the broader team. So I think we'll probably conclude this one and go off and see what we can see.
Sounds good. I want to
right.
get out there.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, thank you.